Another week back here on the 3 a.m. Coney. We have, not too much to discuss outside of the Bengals season basically ending. The Bearcats moved down to number 8, and everyone in Cincinnati continues to hate the committee and hate everything about Power 5. Lukas, what do you think our big story of this week should be here?
It's Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton, triumphant return back to Cincinnati, not wearing orange and black.
Well, so I remember a few weeks ago, I was having a conversation about whether I should get tickets for this game because it was going to be Joe Burrow slaying the previous era of Cincinnati Bengals quarterbacking.
Yep.
Now it's turned into a me staying here rooting from home for a former Bengals quarterback against Cincinnati. I mean, any honest look over the last decade of Cincinnati Bengals football, if you've watched every game and listened to the interviews and seen how it played out, I would imagine you should probably be rooting for Andy Dalton to do pretty well this weekend against Cincinnati. He did so much for the city, so much for the franchise. The fact that he is considered, arguably, you can make a good argument, he's the best quarterback in franchise history when he had this type of skill set he had. You know, he never had Kenny Anderson's accuracy or moxie, never had Boomer Esiason's arm, and yet he was able to be the utmost professional leader, win games with a good team, hold a bad team somewhat together as an average quarterback, be a beautiful spokesperson for the city, and a great Bengal. And now he's playing the guy that benched him on his birthday and has no road wins as a coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. To me, if you're a Bengals fan, not only for a draft pick's sake, because losing to the Cowboys could be the number one way to destroy your chance at a historic left tackle in Penei Sewell.
Right.
But it's also because I think we all like Andy Dalton more than we like Zach Taylor. And that's really who's winning at this point, Andy Dalton or Zach Taylor. And
you nailed it there. You nailed it there. This is the Andy Dalton revenge game against Zach Taylor for what he did, to how he handled everything with Andy Dalton leaving Cincinnati last year. And I'm rooting for Andy Dalton all the way. I am completely fine with Andy Dalton blowing out the Bengals and Zach Taylor having to go up there and go, oh, well, I guess he's a better quarterback and I'm just terrible at my job.
Because it's also, listen, if you're not a Zach Taylor supporter, which there's frankly weird Zach Taylor supporters out there, but to me, you can't always feed what the organization is feeding you. And you can't always believe what players say out loud. Sometimes the writing's on the wall. You don't really need to ask people. You don't need to be told. And 0 road wins in 15 tries, you don't need to be told. An abysmal 1-score record, you don't need to be told. Somehow, some way, this organization is leaning towards fire the staff, hold on to Zach Taylor, which is an idiotic idea because nobody's going to come work for Zach Taylor. So you'll actually probably get worse assistant coaches. I don't know how they get better. But you need this idea that keeping Zach Taylor is anything more than delaying the inevitable to this organization. You need it to start cementing in Mike Brown's head. You need Mike Brown to look around and go, man, at the new year, I need Mike Brown to be like, man, another year. I am getting old. And it's been my dream and my father's dream to win a Super Bowl in the city of Cincinnati, to stick it in the face of Cleveland. In fact, I bet it's an unwritten goal that they've always wanted to win the first Super Bowl in the state of Ohio before the Cleveland Browns. Now the Browns are out there being competitive, sweeping you. And then Andy Dalton, a former quarterback of yours that your coach decimated, comes into your building and beats your butt. That's going to leak into, I want that in Mike Brown's head come early January, because this is a tire fire going on right now, Matt. And it's something that it's hard to even cheer for. It's a 4-flame embarrassment. It's out of control.
Yeah. Well, with Andy Dalton coming back, I don't know how much else we want to actually even talk about this. I mean, the Bengals team in general, with Burrow going down, I have been looking for more Burrow updates and more Burrow announcements than I have for the Bengals in general. I am already on to 2021. And it seems like the rest of the Bengals team is too. But with Andy Dalton coming back, I mean, I was excited at the beginning of this year for Burrow versus Tua kind of game, and that didn't happen. Now, this was supposed to be Dalton versus Burrow, the old versus the new. I mean, the seasoned veteran versus the young, spry rookie, and we don't get that either. But we do get Andy Dalton coming back, and we do get the second best of Andy Dalton versus Zach Taylor. And I would be completely fine with Andy Dalton just went 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then throw a longest yard play in there. And instead of throwing it at the ref's nuts, he turns and he just drills Zach Taylor right in the nose, and he just gets a bloody nose. And you're looking at Zach Taylor, and you got the announcers going, "Oh well, we're gonna take a break here and make sure that Zach Taylor's all right." And you just see Andy Dalton doing a little smirk. Shouldn't have benched me on my birthday.
That'd be funny, and it'd be awesome. And it's before we move on, Matt, the one thing I've heard, and this relates to Andy Dalton, because really I thought last year's team should have been a 4, 5, 6 win team, right?
Yeah.
Obviously on the down stretch, but I still thought that there were some pieces to meld together, and it just fell apart. And we're seeing now with Joe Burrow's absence just how bad this can get without Joe Burrow. And I think that's a blessing in disguise. And it's one of the many positive Joe Burrow thoughts I've had, but it's a blessing in disguise because yes, we can go through the past few games and go, well, if Joe Burrow would have been there for the rest of the game against Washington, they would have won that. That would have been a great win. They definitely would have beat the Giants. They'd have beat the Giants with Joe Burrow. That's a good win. Oh, they probably could have maybe snuck by the Dolphins with Joe Burrow. That's another win. They would blow out this Cowboys team with Joe Burrow. That's another win. And guess what? We're staring at our 6-6-1 scenario I was talking about heading into Monday night against Pittsburgh. Here's the thing, though. Since you remove Joe Burrow from the formula, not only has a stretch where I thought this team could have won 4 straight games turned into not just a losing stretch, it has turned into this really might be the worst NFL team of all time right now. This unit, this Cincinnati Bengals team, because where is it judged from? It's judged from the offensive line, the defensive line, and the quarterback position. Look throughout NFL history. If you got a top 5 O-line, top 5 D-line, and a top 5 quarterback, you win the Super Bowl every time. That's what's most important in football. And right now, you have Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley, who this coaching staff stood on the table for at your quarterback position. You have a historically bad offensive line, which, again, you rehired the coach that had a historic bad line a year ago, and now it's historically bad. And because you mismanaged 2 of the best pass rushers in the history of the franchise, you now have the worst defensive line, arguably, in Cincinnati Bengals history.
Yep.
And that's why this might be the worst outfit of an NFL team ever put together over these next few weeks. And as a Bengals fan, you go, well, if they had Burrow, just because you have this beautiful tablecloth, right, to cover things up. It's okay if you've got a dirty little table. It's got some scratches on it. It's a little dented. You take the tablecloth, which in this case is Joe Burrow. You cover it up. Oh, that's a nice table. That looks good, right? Now a great tablecloth on a nice, big, elegant table, right, with a good O-line and a good D-line. That tablecloth looks even better. But what the Cincinnati Bengals want to do for 2021, if the Jay Glazer reports are true, is take a big mountain of shit and cover it in a tablecloth and think that's okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay. It's not a thing that you should be doing as an NFL organization, because right now, what's going on the field every week, I don't care about injuries. I don't care about nothing. Pandemic, preseason, all that BS. You're getting outcoached at every position and outplayed at almost every position significantly. And that's why this is my biggest positive Joe Burrow thought, is this negative rant. because we all got to truly see it. This is life without Joe Burrow and with Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
This is life. And here's the thing. If you want to go win Super Bowls, Joe Burrow might miss 3 games. What if Joe Burrow injures his thumb after an 8-0 start? Do we remember? And Zach Taylor has to try to win a playoff game by himself to get back to Joe Burrow, or win 2 games down the stretch to get good seeding. That's not going to happen, right? That's why you need everybody. You need a good coach and a good organization. And that's my big positive Joe Burrow thought, is that we get to see how bad this really is without him. And now we can fix it, what's around him, so that it isn't so bad around him when he comes back. And this organization can take the step that the gods gave them the ability to take by giving Joe Burrow to them with the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we hope. We've been talking about that for weeks, that Joe Burrow is the guy. We know that. We've seen that. We see that every week, whether the Bengals win or lose. But if you're not building the team around him, if you're not giving him what he needs to succeed, I mean, you're putting that beautiful tablecloth over a table that you put a cup on it and the whole thing falls down. Like, sure, the tablecloth is probably going to be okay, but like, you can't let it get to that point. And seeing now the Zach Taylor team without Joe Burrow, we knew we've known that Zach Taylor is not the guy. We might have bought into the new day, it's not Marvin Lewis, how much worse could it be? But at the end of the day, he is not the guy. The coaches he brought in are not doing their job. And you had brought up that this could be the worst time for Cincinnati sports in general since the 2015 playoff loss, with how bad the Reds have been. Like, I mean, they somehow got into the playoffs, but overall,
you know, their combined winning. So since that playoff loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which might have ruined everybody's lives for a while.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm still recovering from that.
Since that point, Cincinnati professional sports, and I luckily didn't include FC Cincinnati in the MLS. That would have brought this way down. So imagine it even lower.
That would be bad. I'm going to cover this up.
369 between the Bengals and Reds in terms of winning percentage. 436 for the Reds, 302 for the Bengals. 1 playoff appearance between the two, and it came in an expanded playoff format. And then that playoff appearance was followed by the worst 22 innings in playoff history by any franchise ever. And right now, currently, this Bengals stretch, if Joe Burrow, just imagine what this team would be if Chase Young, if let's say the Bengals fell to the 2 pick and they balked and didn't necessarily fall in love with Herbert, and let's say they just drafted Chase Young. Do you think this team has a win? Do you really think this team with Chase Young and Brandon Allen at quarterback, or Ryan Finley, or let's say they bring in somebody like Joe Flacco, you think this team has a win? They don't have a win. They'd be worse than the Jets. They're worse than the Jets right now. I take the Jets up to 3-point favorites over the Cincinnati Bengals right now. In fact, we're about to do Bengals versus Vegas. 3.5? Are you kidding me? They can't score points.
This is the Dalton versus Bengals versus Vegas now. And I mean, we kind of skipped this for the past 2 weeks because we were still recovering from everything that happened with Burrow, and it wasn't as fun anymore. But now, Cowboys 3.5-point favorites over the Bengals, over under at 43.
Under. You know why it's under? Because there's
under 43.
There's one team on the field who will have at maximum 1 offensive touchdown. One. That's it. You really believe the Cincinnati Bengals? The Dallas Cowboys have defensive players who think that they don't have to give 100% effort on every play. Remember that quote from earlier this year? That's what the Cowboys are dealing with on defense. And I still think you're crazy if you think the Bengals are going to score more than 1 offensive touchdown on Sunday. So if a team only scores 1 offensive touchdown, barring a miracle, the maximum point total they can get to is maybe 20 if they get lucky with field position and kick some field goals.
I mean, how absurd was it in the last game? They were -6 total yards in a quarter or in a half. It's like, I think we're just surprised if we get a first down at this point, much less points.
They're unwatchable. They are pathetic. They are putrid. They are an embarrassment.
So you are taking the Cowboys -3.5 too?
Yeah. Why would I do anything different? That's the thing. And the Bengals might ruin everybody's hopes and win this game because I still love a lot of the players. And when I say embarrassment, when I say this is embarrassing, they are putrid, I don't mean that this is the worst collection of talent, in NFL history. I don't believe that at all. I think this is even without Joe Burrow, with a league average quarterback, I think this is a 5-6 win outfit in terms of talent, especially the beginning of the year when you had Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah.
This coaching staff is -6 wins. They're -6 wins. Joe Burrow was +4 wins. And that's why we were going to get to 5 or 6 wins, right? So get a coaching staff that's only -1 win, right? I felt like that's what always Marvin was. He brought a stability that helped up that total, but Marvin would always screw up a game or a game.
He would do something with a timeout or clock management or do something boneheaded in the fourth quarter that would cost us the win. But yeah, not close to what this Zach Taylor coaching staff has been able to pull off, to continually find new ways to lose games.
And you just can't say, well, this play, that play, this play, that play. That's the league, man. That is the league. You know, John Elway, his kickoff return team muffed a kick, brought him down to the 2. He went 98 yards and won the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
Right. You know what Zach Taylor's teams would have done? Zach Taylor would have made a dumb play call. And then he would have said, well, you know, if we wouldn't have been pinned back at the 2, well, if this play wouldn't have happened, if that ball wouldn't have been tipped like this, we would have won. We should really be, you know, I'm thinking 6-2-1. I think that we're great. And like, I knew this would happen because anybody that listened to this show, Matt, knows that I was positive about Zach Taylor. Wouldn't you admit that?
Yeah.
Like
you were.
I was positive. And even if Zach Taylor were a -1 win, -2 win guy, right? With the way Marvin was, or even a little worse than Marvin, but he's younger and getting better. And I'd say, you know what? I'd rather have him than somebody like Bieniemy, who I think's +2, +3 wins, because we keep Joe Burrow in the same system and the organization propels along and you gain those stability bonus points. And the stability aspect of it, I really like that idea. But he's been the worst case scenario. He is a tire fire disaster.
Yeah.
And now I want to move on because it's the only sensible thing to do. I think, right?
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, when I'm hearing the exact same copy paste excuses from him in every post-game interview, no, it's basically, he just kind of goes on this autopilot no matter what the outcome of the game was. He just kind of going like, oh, you know, we had some things that didn't go our way, but we're just staying the course. Very positive. You know, we're on our way. And it's kind of like, well, at this rate, we're going to have a winning record in 10 years. Like this is not on our way. This is taking too long. Your system is not working. Something needs to change.
Yeah. And it's got to happen quick in today's NFL. There's too much quarterback talent coming in. Think about the quarterbacks that are going to be in the AFC after next year, if the draft order currently holds. You will have Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. You will have Baker Mayfield, who now looks like if he has protection, he can be a top 10 guy. And I hate Baker, right? As soon as the Baker gets pressure, he collapses. I don't think he'll ever win a Super Bowl. But man, he's given time, solid coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, he had his first really good game that wasn't against the Bengals.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's,
you know,
progress.
And you can see why. And I always thought he'd be a long-term starter in the league, and he's proving it, right? I still don't like him. I still wouldn't have drafted him. But besides the point, you have Baker Mayfield. Ben Roethlisberger might be coming back for another year. You have Justin Herbert. You have Tua Tagovailoa in this conference. You have Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr in this conference. You have one of the most stable organizations out west in the Denver Broncos in this conference. You have Lamar Jackson in this conference, the defending MVP. There's no waiting around. There's no time for patience. The only advantage the Bengals have is that of all those young guys, Josh Allen is in this conference. Out of all those young guys I named, Joe Burrow is probably the best one that'll be on a rookie contract for the longest. That's your advantage over the rest of the conference. You know what that means? That means this is your window.
Yeah.
You got to win it in the next 4 years, or you got to win it in the next 4 years, because Joe Burrow will be ready to. Will the organization step up with him is the number one question.
Yeah. Yeah, you are absolutely right there. Let me get your opinion, your prediction here. If Zach Taylor, what would he have to do to not come back next year? And do you think he is going to?
To not come back. Well, I'll tell you this. Here's what'll bring him back.
Okay.
The team staying within the point margin they've been in every game.
Yeah.
And everybody's still playing really hard. And they look scrappy, kind of like they did at the end of last year. And Joe Burrow comes out in an interview or something. That'll keep him. One win anywhere, 100% back. If he wins it all, he will come back. No doubt. If he wins it all, he will come back. But what I think will happen, and this is the only situation in which he could get fired, and I'm still 50-50 on if it'll happen. You've got to get Andy Dalton's got to come in and win by at least 2 scores. At least 2 scores.
Rooting for it.
Rooting for it, yeah. And then the Monday Night Football game has to be so embarrassing that it makes national media rounds. Are the Bengals the worst NFL team of all time without Joe Burrow? That's got to be the headline on Tuesday morning, right? Where the Steelers so thoroughly on primetime football embarrass the Bengals in every aspect of the game, right? To where it's almost debilitating to anybody that's ever worn the jersey. Like,
for anyone that may have both two jerseys behind them while they record podcasts.
But again, I'm rooting for it. So as a final nail in this torturous coffin, you wouldn't take that? If I told you this, that in our future awaits either Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator of the Bills, Eric Bieniemy, or Joe Brady, right? If one of those 3 coaches are in our future, and that next season we're 6-2 with Joe Burrow on a weirdly helped by the storyline of his ACL MVP campaign with a brand new coach, would you rather that? Or would you rather Zach Taylor hang around against Pittsburgh, hang around against Dallas, sneak out a win against an unsuspecting Houston or Baltimore, and be back next year, and then we've got to fire him when we start 2-7-1, and Joe Burrow's got another sprained ankle because he keeps getting hit so damn much, right?
Yeah, no, I don't want that at all.
Wouldn't you
but,
rather?
I mean, you have some Bengals fans that go, if you're rooting for them to lose, if you're rooting for the tank, you're not a real fan. I'm thinking future. I'm thinking Joe Burrow's health and how many years we can have of Joe Burrow, and we have that window, and we can't waste it with another year of Zach Taylor.
Yeah, I don't like those fans. You know why? Because those fans don't think, right? Because here's the thought process. Yeah, we can win games. You know when I used to think like that, Matt, when I was 11 to about 14 years old, right? No, you got to win every game. You got to win. You got to win every game. You got to try to upset this Steelers team back end of the season. And there are certain situations in which I agree with that fact. Plain and simple. First year head coach, all that stuff. I didn't want this team to go 0-16 last year. I wanted them to get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Why? Because Joe Burrow was on the table. Anybody that thinks tanking is a bad thing, I agree, no player or coach should ever try to lose. And I don't think they ever do. And if I were in that organization and I were coaching and I were in the front office and I were on the field, I would 100% be trying to win every game. But as an observer, what is our goal as a fan? What do we sometimes dream about as Cincinnati sports people? All we want is a Cincinnati Bengals player to be holding the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah.
That's it. And that commercial to come on after they hold it up and go, Cincinnati Bengals fans, your team just won the Super Bowl. Haven't you dreamt about that moment? Haven't you thought about it?
That starts as a dream and then it turns into a nightmare where I realize it's a dream within the dream and that it'll never happen. And that just.
And I cried once, man. I won the Super Bowl with the Bengals in Madden. I was like 15, going through a hard time. Andy Dalton was holding the Super Bowl trophy. I was like, God damn, man, I can't believe it. We did it. That's all I want.
We did it. We did. I didn't even think I could do it in Madden, but I did it.
Yeah, that's all we want. It was hard as hell in Madden, too. It took me 5 years. I missed like 3 or 4 times. That's all we want as fans. That's all you should want as fans is a championship. And for a long time, especially in the 2011 to 2015 era, I stood on the table and I said, no, being good is good enough. And that's simply not true.
Yeah.
The more I've thought about it, the more I've existed in it. Being good enough is not good enough, right? Our goal in this is to one day have a game that you're so proud of, that you have such a fond memory of, that you can get the tape out and show your 10-year-old who has no idea about it. That's the dream. That's the dream that all those Bengals fans who have cheered their whole lives, that are entering their 60s and 70s, ones who wore the colors in 1969, our dream is for them to see their team win the Super Bowl. And I'm sorry, the honest goddamn truth is that losing at the current moment and losing at the end of last year will help this team eventually one day win the Super Bowl. That's the truth of it. Penei Sewell is the thing that can help us win the Super Bowl. Another coach than Zach Taylor is the thing that can help you win the Super Bowl. And that to me is important. And if it's not important, I think that's crazy. I think that's not being a real fan. I think that's worrying about your week-to-week emotions instead of the bigger picture.
Yeah, lose the battle to win the war. And I mean, we as Cincinnati fans, we you're talking about bringing up the tape, showing your children and your grandchildren. This was the happiest moment of my life. This Bengals win. And right now, if I'm looking back at the past decade, the only moments we can show is, look, we went 8-0, or look, we all thought we won a playoff game. No, wait, stop the count, turn it off. Don't show the next play.
That's it. That's it. You got like a Seahawks comeback in there, you know,
a
couple of comebacks in 2009. Great memories.
Some missed field goals that ended in a tie that we were not sure about.
You know, it's because as frustrated as everybody gets about the Reds, you can turn on those Big Red Machine documentaries. You can watch that Pete Rose documentary. You can live in it. You can remember it. You can see the colors and be proud of it for a moment. Hey, we had this amazing thing happen to us. We did it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all you should want. Just one, too. Not any more than that. Just one. And right now, in this current moment, not in every situation, not always, if we were out of the playoffs, but still had Joe Burrow and we're clear of the top 3 picks, I don't care whether we're 4 or 9, go win some games. But in this moment, it's almost critical to get that number 3 pick. It's almost And if we could sneak up to 2 or something, that'd be even better. You know, you could have some draft capital or just get Sewell a pick earlier and have earlier picks in the later rounds. But it's critical that this team lose some games right now.
Yeah, and so that's why right now we have to root for Andy Dalton.
I'm okay with that.
Which is absolutely fine with me. I want Zach Taylor to lose to Andy Dalton, and then I want Andy Dalton to do something that is uncharacteristic of him and be a little bit of a dick to Zach Taylor.
Yeah, please. Snub his handshake or something. Or the elbow tap or whatever.
He would go in there and he would like go for the handshake and go, oh, and then walk away. That's an Andy Dalton move.
Oh, man. If Andy Dalton has a great game and blows out the Bengals, if Andy Dalton wins by more than 30 points, I'm going to donate $20 to his charity. I promise. If Andy Dalton wins by more than 30 points, I'll donate $20 to his charity. I'm down for it. I'll sign up for it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. I think that's it, right, Matt?
That'll do it. Yeah, we are right here at 30 minutes.
Beautiful. Great, Coney. You know, it sucks right now, everything, but we'll get through it.
We will.
Zach Taylor.
Till next week.
Zach Taylor.